So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to dive into another panel up next. We're all aware that building on the state level, our next session dives into how technology is revolutionizing business growth, and it's time to explore how digital innovation drives efficiency and exponential growth, even in the face of operational challenges. So let's welcome our moderator for this session, Harshad Satam, Head Scaling Startups at Google Cloud India, who's going to steer this discussion on tech as a superpower for scaling. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear you make some noise for Mr. Harshad Satam. Bear with us a moment as we get the stage set. Sorry about that, sir. So in this session, we have industry leaders who are going to be sharing with us actionable insights on leveraging technology to overcome challenges and drive market expansion. Joining Satam on stage are our esteemed panelists. I'd like you all to please put your hands together as we welcome Mayank Kumar, co-founder of upGrad and BorderPlus. Nitish Mittersain, Joint Managing Director and CEO of Nazara Technologies. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for each of our panelists as they take the stage. Meena Ganesh, Chairperson and co-founder of Portea Medical, Trustee of Bahaar Foundation. And Shivani, Karia, Jhaveri, co-founder and COO of Blox. Welcome to each of our panelists. I request you all if you can sit as per the pictures on the presentation.
All right, good evening. Welcome all to this interesting panel, Tech as a Superpower for Scaling. I'm Harshad. I'm part of the Google Cloud team, focused towards startup. I and my colleagues, some of them are here in the room. We help startups scale on our platform using the best of data and AI. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have this distinguished panel of entrepreneurs that all of us know, who've been sort of the guiding light for so many of us, the young entrepreneurs in this room. Each of our panelists have built incredible businesses, leverage technology to drive scale, growth. So today we are going to delve into their journey, see what insights we can derive by listening to them. So thank you all once again for being part of the panel. Let's kick off the segment by looking at the genesis of your journey, right? So if I have to ask you, Mayank, upGrad is disrupting the education sector. Could you talk about some of the initial hurdles that you faced? How did you overcome them? And were there any tech enablers that helped you in that stage, early stage?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me here. And it's always tough to handle the set of people who will come after me. But just on your point, so for us, when we're starting upGrad, I think initially everybody said that education will get disrupted, so it will become like Netflix, it will become YouTube, every content will be available. So for us, we realized that, look, while education is a very large sector and there's a lot of disruption that is possible, but technology has to be an enabler. It cannot be the core and front and center. So in our conversation, we never called ourselves EdTech. We always said we are education first and technology has to sort of enable us. But initial setting up challenges outside of finding team, finding the product market fit, one of the big problem statement for us was that, see, I see education is not like Netflix and chill. You cannot binge watch Python 101 or Economics 101 overnight like you do Game of Thrones. So it is like eating vegetable till your mother slaps you to eat the vegetable. You don't want to eat it on your own.
Correct.
So for us, technology leverage was done to ensure that the human element of touch and high touch actually can scale up. How do you bring in somebody with the right set of accountability? I'll give you a very simple example. I don't know if you've done an online program, any online program ever.
Yeah, quite a bit.
But less likely that your friends and family know that you have done that online program. But if you have done
Yes.
a BTech or an MBA from some place or bachelor's program, everybody knows. So education for us leads, online education leads to a lot of anonymity and therefore very high dropouts. So for us, technology was used to kill anonymity, bring in more presence, and a lot of other elements to make education more humane rather than make it more technology, which is where education was losing its relevance at that point of time.
That is so good to hear. I'll come to you, Nitish. From building or coding your first game in your early years to creating the first gaming company to go IPO in the country. Could you talk about the initial stages? What kind of challenges did you face as you started building more games, diversifying your portfolio? And were there any tech enablers that solved problems for you?
Yeah, hi. Is this working? Yeah. So for me, I think, having started Nazara 25 years back, I was in college, Sydenham College, not studying, thinking of, how gaming could be big in India. It was very early from an India gaming market perspective. And one of the biggest challenges was the availability of devices with the consumer, because India was not, people were not having gaming devices in their home, right? Or access like PCs or consoles, etc. So that was a big challenge. The internet speed was a big challenge, right? And billing was a big problem. How do you charge consumers? So I think there were a lot of challenges, and probably the first decade for us, all the way from 99, 2000 to 2010, I think bulk of the challenge was these macro level factors. But fast forward 15 years from then, I think everything's transformed, right? India has, a billion consumers maybe on mobile phones. And most of them are fantastic gaming devices which we could have never thought about in the pockets of people. Internet speed is very good, and India has really leaped ahead in digital payments. So I think it's a great place, and we've been able to progress because of macro level technological progress, I would say.
Like you said, right, we take so many of things granted right now. Devices, internet, I'll come to you, Meena. Let's start by understanding the early days at Portea Medical. And you are delivering healthcare services to homes, right? What were some of the initial hurdles that you faced? Could you talk about it, share your insights with the audience?
Sure, thank you. So when we started Portea in 2013, we identified a gap in the healthcare industry. We said that while good quality healthcare is available in facilities, outside of facility care is very poor. So it went about trying to change that. That was a disruption that we were working on. And right from day one, we were very clear that what we wanted to build was going to be all India. It was going to be a brand to reckon with. And it was going to be a dispersed population of people providing services into the homes of people who are dispersed as well. So technology had to be the basis for pulling it all together. So on every front, whether it is from how we interact with the customers or with the doctors who refer those patients or with the clinicians, everything had to be based on a technology platform. Now it was obvious that there is no choice but to do that. But what was very interesting is that even though not the problems that you had, which is that technology is available, internet is okay, people are willing, but this sector had not yet used technology that much. So if you look at the clinicians who have to go into homes to do the services, physiotherapists, doctors, nurses, they were not at all comfortable using an app and delivering services to that. So we had to really work very hard to change their behavior so that they could do this. Because if in the alternative of that, everything would be manual, highly people intensive, layers and layers of monitoring, which is not going to be scalable. So that was a huge behavior change that we needed to bring about. Now we also launched an app for the customer/patient. So I differentiate between the two because one is the patient and the payer may be different. It might be a family member or anyone else. But what we realized very soon that that was not really very relevant because what the patients needed was it had to be a managed service. They're not going to come just set up something and take it and go. It's healthcare. You need to manage it very closely. You need to have multiple interactions. So while we created a platform for our patients and their family members and their doctors to track their entire journey, the interaction with the patient and to onboard the patient had still got to be digital plus human supported. So it had to be a combination of the two because you'd need to have a conversation, understand what your challenges are, counsel them, how are we going to help you, what are your problems, and so on. So technology had to be and is, but the way it had to be implemented and used required a lot of fine-tuning in this industry.
Thank you, Meena, for sharing that. Technology, it has to be adopted by all the stakeholders, everyone, right? Good to hear that. Let me come to you, Shivani. You are very interesting what you told me, and I really didn't know that you are India's first real estate platform, online real estate platform where you can buy homes. I have always seen platforms which were informational, but you are actually enabling transactions. So it's traditionally been an offline model. Talk about what are the challenges that you faced, how did you overcome them?
One of the first challenges we faced is exactly what you mentioned, that how do you buy homes online? We started Blox in the lockdown when we identified that while the market of real estate is very vast in India, the traditional real estate buying process has never been disrupted or they wasn't looked at for changing. There were two main challenges, Harshad. One was from the perspective of the buyer, where they faced trust issues, fragmented process. Typically, you would go on a platform and see something that interests you. You'll interact with it only to know that you're connected with a broker who will tell you that this inventory is sold. Why don't you look at this? But that's not what the intending buyer was here for. So customer was not getting the relevant service they needed. Second was lack of digital adoption in real estate in general. We saw in our 4 years of being active with Blox that developers were only now starting to inculcate digital practices of data recording and customer life cycle. So we saw that actually as a massive opportunity because simultaneously, globally, you had PropTech players that were very successfully selling real estate like Zillow, Redfin, Compass. So we said India market is growing in digital adoption. Why don't we look at it? First, for the customer, we made a seamless journey. The first transaction journey for homes where transaction was possible. You can book any property listed on our platform. All inventory is available for sale. Second challenge on the side of the developer was, how do you now have your ERP system talk in the backend for inventory management? This is not the kind of product you can stock in a warehouse. This is widespread across the city. So immediately we made our own CRM and ERP system, much like Swiggy, with a multi-stakeholder ecosystem, just like we mentioned earlier. We have one app for the relationship manager, one for the customer, one for the developer, which talks to our core nucleus ERP, thus enabling us to be able to give the customer that online friction-free transaction. At first, just like everybody else, we thought maybe it will work, maybe it won't. We saw an instant uptick in adoption, and shortly after, in 3.5 years, we have over 1,000 developers, 3,000 plus projects listed, and on platform alone, we've done over 4,000 crores of sales.
Fantastic numbers. I think I'll ask you offline, how do people negotiate online? But I think that's for another time. Let's go. I'm sure the audience would want to hear from all of you on how have you scaled a business, and I'll come to you, Nitish. Nazara, if you look at it now, is not just a gaming platform, but is a sports entertainment, sports media platform as well. So how did you identify opportunities? What strategies did you use to diversify, look at growth opportunities? How did you scale? Speak about it. Keen to hear.
So for us, we pivoted the business in about 2015. We started doing it. In 2017, we were kind of made good progress, where we became quite an, for a growth strategy, we adopted acquisitions and growing the inorganic route, which has in the last few years been very successful for us. We were able to acquire companies in different segments of gaming that we wanted to get into with a structure that we built called Friends of Nazara, which I'll not get into the details right now, but that worked extremely well for us. And over the last few years, I think we've acquired maybe 40, 50 businesses. I'm not particularly counting at this point of time. But I think we acquire businesses that are profitable, help them scale. Many of the businesses we acquired in 2019, 2020 have 10x in terms of revenues while being profitable and generating good profit margins. So there's one playbook we've established, and that's working well for us. So that's what we've been doubling down on.
This is very interesting here that acquisitions have worked for you, and 40 to 50 acquisitions, and you've found synergies is really amazing.
We've actually not found synergies, so just
go ahead.
I think one of the things I realized quite early on is that many times when you get down this acquisition game, you think too much of synergies, you pay too much for it, and then those synergies never really turn into reality. So we actually discount synergies.
Perfect. Maybe some of the big companies should listen to what you've been speaking. They struggle with this. I'll come to you, Mayank. upGrad has seen incredible growth in a short time. Speak about what's driven this growth, right? And what are some of the levers that you and your teams have used to drive this growth in such a short time?
See, I think for us, slightly different than, let's say, what Nitish mentioned in terms of Nazara. For us, it has to be very close to the customer and the end user. I think one of the things that we continue to do was just to understand, see, because in the ecosystem, education was just getting started, and therefore, we had to look at consumer and see what are they looking for. So I'll give you one simple example. We started with some online programs, and we were selling online programs for individuals, and they got some credits. We said, if you got these credits for doing certain programs, can you convert that into a master's program? Then we said, if you can do master's program online, can you do master's program offline? So our study abroad vertical started. So we took the core product and we continued chasing what the customer had always been asking for and seeing whether we can bring out newer forms of products. So I think we kept pace with the product innovation by being very close to the customer and consumer. And to your point, Harshad, on just in terms of where technology came in handy, because for the entire value chain of what we do or sort of the steps that we undertake, I had a unique sort of way of looking at things. Wherever the cost of doing that thing was very high, could technology bring the cost down? So I think even today when we are building BorderPlus, we are seeing that, look, teaching somebody German is a very expensive proposition. Can we use AI to bring the cost down significantly? So I think we work backwards to bring in technology where we felt the cost structure can be fundamentally disrupted or the process could be fundamentally re-engineered, and then work backwards using technology to drive growth. So one very small example I'll give, I think in our case, webinars work a lot. A lot of times webinars is a very good way of acquiring customers. But doing webinars on an ongoing basis is a costly proposition because you have to pay the speaker again and again. So we did something which is using AI, created Seam Live webinars. So people were coming in and doing webinars on an ongoing basis. So I think those small ways where we feel the cost of doing that is very high and technology can bring the cost down is a good framework to use to come back with how to re-engineer the entire process overall.
Usually technology drives a lot of innovation, but I'm so glad to hear that technology has actually helped you bring the cost down and make the products more feasible, more adaptable for your customers. Also, I think basics around keeping the customer or persona at the center and then building product around it. Thank you. Uh, Shivani spoke about trust in the real estate when you go and buy real estate. Meena, even in healthcare, trust, reliability are paramount, right? Because you're delivering healthcare services for people. What are some of the things that you focused on that help build this confidence with your customers, and that has helped you drive growth?
It's a very good question because health, like you rightly said, requires huge amount of trust. It is not it's a sticky business if you get the trust of people. They will not change their healthcare providers that easily, but it's the same thing. And how do you break in and become the healthcare provider of choice? So we worked on multiple fronts. One is we said that our quality, our reliability has to be of such a level that people don't have any doubts. They know that when Portea comes in to provide service or when you reach out to Portea, you will get the best quality of service. So building the internal systems, processes, the training, and the monitoring, quality processes, and a lot of technology got used in that because this is scalable, this is scaled and dispersed, it's all over the country. So first you had to fix the core and make it work again and again and again, because this is a daily it's something which has to be done at the patient's home. So it required a lot of effort and time. Now simultaneously, we at least in the initial days, we said, how do we build some credibility for us? We are a new provider here. So we said that we will also ally with large healthcare providers, existing hospital systems. And when we showed them how we were going to be working, they were happy to partner us. And we started to be their home care provider or their out of a hospital healthcare provider. So that association also gave us a lot of credibility. And the third was, of course, building a brand. We are doing all these things. Let's talk about it. It's not just about D2C marketing and referrals through hospitals, but let's also go directly ATL, create that brand. And I think that was something which was very valuable, especially because we were going to be all India spread. So combination of technology to make yourself really strong, and stakeholder management and brand building.
And partnerships, right? Partnerships
right,
with
that's what's the first thing I said. So stakeholders, making sure that you're engaged with all the stakeholders in the system, whether it's hospitals, doctors, insurance companies. We created very, very strong relationships with all of them so that they will talk about us to their patients and hence create the credibility from that end as well.
Scaling a real estate platform, and we were speaking about it earlier, right? Complex market dynamics, some reservations from the user side. What's helped you drive scale? What are few areas that you focused as a founder to drive scale?
Generally, in a fragmented industry like real estate, you'll see a lot of indiscipline in general and across processes. So the first thing that we identified after ensuring that the customer flow is set, where as far as the customer is concerned, they can quickly transact, we build the ERP that allows us to be able to talk to the developer purely through our systems. We also created an online to offline to online model, which also assists those who may be looking for physical touch and feel, especially because the category is such that you would want to go visit. So you can schedule a site visit in 30 minutes and the relationship manager will meet you at the site that you wish to visit at your time. Now we realize that this system works very well, but to be able to achieve scale, it would be very important to manage your leads correctly. So real estate conversion funnel is abysmal at the bottom and extremely wide at the top. We're talking millions of site visits that get converted into probably 100,000 qualified leads. You'll probably have 10,000 people visiting those sites, and maybe 500 people will eventually buy. So to be able to scale efficiently and prioritize data correctly, we built these two platforms that have helped us scale. In Blox Labs, that's our AI R&D division. One is Vani and one is Coach. Vani hears, is a voice sentiment analyzer. There is a neural network deployed to be trained and deployed to be able to determine the sentiment of the buyer, thus telling us who is enthusiastic versus not, so that the team and the system can prioritize those that are highly intending over the rest. This cut down our follow-up time by 50% and increased our transaction efficiency by 300%. The second thing is Coach. It does consumer profiling. It understands your lifestyle index, your location preferences, affinity towards goals such as you want schools next door or you want a train station next door, understands all of that and is able to match you to the correct property. Some things it asks you, some things from the number that they give us, we are able to officially, legally, white hat way may see online as well. So now you have prioritized leads. Now you have intending buyers that are matched with the relevant property, and then we have our ERP system to do all the rest of the flow that goes into the purchase of this. Our framework today is only functional in Mumbai, but after this pilot, we are very confident that the same process can lend itself very beautifully. In fact, in many cases like Karnataka, where the Karnataka RERA allows you to transact and register properties online, which Maharashtra doesn't. You can even go so as to say that all your documentation can also then happen online.
Perfect, perfect. I'll switch gears and we'll talk about the future a little bit, right? And I'll come to you, Nitish. What are some of the emerging technologies, based on your experience, what are you seeing right now, that are going to impact gaming, sports media industry?
I think it's a universal answer right now, right? Any guesses?
Little bit more, sort of use cases where you think these emerging technologies would impact.
Look, I think at this point of time where we stand, right, I think in the next 2-3 years, or maybe faster, everything that we know, we speak of, we do in our work, is going to be absolutely transformed because of AI. Right, today, I don't know how my public investors will look at it, but today actually I have a virtual Nazara CEO that I speak to the whole day, right, on all strategy and everything else that I'm thinking of and doing. So I think the use cases of AI are tremendous and already impacting in a big way. And I actually think that all of us, including me, are not yet seized about how fast this transformation is going to happen, how big this transformation is going to happen, right? So I think everything is going to be AI. Now that said, specifically for my industry in gaming, other technologies, Web3, which is digital asset ownership, is going to eventually become important. Virtual reality, metaverse and all are also going to become a reality in the years to come, and I think 2-3 years. But without doubt, it's AI transforming in a massive manner. It's a big disruption, at the same time a big opportunity. And I think whoever are the early adopters of this technology are actually going to have a big lead over the late adopters.
You're absolutely right, Nitish. We at Google, let's say about 18 months back, we thought a lot of the AI conversations was still folks testing out. We now, in the last 6 months, see that being part of products, customer journeys, even tasks like coding, testing on technology platforms, right? AI is completely transforming the way we operate. I'll come to you, Meena. What are, Nitish spoke about AI, but what are some of the other technologies you feel will impact healthcare in India?
So one of the areas where I'm seeing huge amount of movement is in point of care and rapid testing devices, which can be deployed at the customer end for quick diagnosis, medical diagnosis, but also wearables, etc., which will give us health data. So that's one area where you can see huge amount of transformation. And of course, AI in diagnosis is huge. There's a lot of opportunity, and we can see some very good transformations happening, especially in the radiology space, where sometimes AI radiologist is probably better equipped than a human radiologist to find some of the issues. The other area where I think in healthcare, the AI and technology can help is personalizing the therapy. So far, if you look at how medical business works or medical industry works, it is population-based therapy. You look at broadly groups of people, how do they react to certain drugs, what's the best way to treat groups of people, but from there moving into individualized therapy because of the usage of genetic mapping and using technology that can then very, very specifically customize and target the kind of treatment, more so in oncology than in other spaces. And then, of course, technology as the way to make sure data is flowing through the entire healthcare system. That's still broken. Where any country, it's still broken. So that is one thing which is waiting to be disrupted. And I very strongly believe that AI can actually play a huge role there. A doctor-patient conversation, the bot is listening and converting that into data. Because asking the doctors to enter data, we've tried and tested, just not working. It'll never make it happen. So this is there are some trials going on in this with Gen AI kind of solutions. So let's see how that goes.
Perfect, perfect. If I have to ask you, Mayank, any emerging technologies for immersive learning, maybe so many folks are going through courses, right, around managing credentials. And do you think any technologies will impact that space?
I think I cannot not talk about AI because I think this is one of the this is one of the biggest technology disruption of our entire sort of, at least my career fully. I think there's nothing bigger, and I don't know whether anything bigger will come in the process or not. Yes, in education, there's a lot of technologies coming in from AR, VR, blockchain for credentialing, and so on and so forth. But I think I'll just mention one small point here on AI, that AI is not necessarily a use case as an independent play, but how do you use, like we used to call it digital first pedagogy. I think today in the context of what we talk about education, it's an AI first pedagogy. What it means is you have video, you have text, you have something else, and then there's an AI bot that will ask you a question and get an answer back. But AI independent usage may not yield as much result as AI integrated in the overall curriculum. So even in a classroom, if AI gets integrated versus getting independently used, the efficacy is going to be far superior than what we happen sort of on an independent use case basis. I'll give you one small example. We are trying to teach people German right now, to train them to get deployed internationally. German teachers are in a shortage right now. How do you use AI to start conversing with them on German and bringing the context of hospitals in Germany, how they will deal with patients? Those things are much better done using an AI rather than using an existing faculty member, because there's a massive shortage of that faculty member in India. So I think technology of this sort can completely change the way you're building.
Truly disruptive. Absolutely. I think very soon we will have tutors, professors who could be AI driven.
I just replaced my son's math tutor with a ChatGPT tutor.
Perfect. Shivani, you spoke about how you've been using technology. Any emerging technologies you think will impact real estate in the coming future?
There are many. One is tokenization of real estate, if and when were to happen. It will allow small ticket size investors to enter. But the future of home buying looks very promising, right? It's also a very high impact industry that has remained uninvolved with technology. By 2030, the industry is set to hit 1 trillion in market size, but we don't see tech being used as an enabler as much as it should be. I predict a future where you're wearing your VR goggles, experiencing the apartment. With AR, you can maybe check your furnishing. With UPI payment, your booking amount is paid already. The AI is telling you what is the perfect loan as per your income in the back end. And behind the scenes, you have lead prioritization that is matching you with relevant properties that you can, just like you watch reels, on VR, experience different properties. All these technologies exist today. Of course, the VR adoption and the AR adoption in real estate has not been what we thought it would be, given it's such a physical product that could lend itself so beautifully on a VR platform. But a lot of these technologies that exist today, coming together in the correct sequence and use case is what will enable PropTech and real estate sales to scale online efficiently and at a very, very large scale.
So no one particular technology, but stitching all of them together is what you feel. I think time is up. I'm just going to take like one final comment for young entrepreneurs in the room. One message for each one of you. Mayank?
One message?
Yeah.
Technology or anything? No, I think for me, look, I've been a product of just working hard, so I cannot say anything except that whosoever is building today, there's no shortcut to working hard, and you have to always show up, no matter what happens, whatever that you're doing as an entrepreneur. Show up every single day, even if it's a good day, bad day. Showing up matters a lot.
Perfect. Nitish?
So for me, my 25 years of entrepreneurial experience is summed in what I call the 3 Ps, which is pursue your passion, persevere, and always be positive.
Perfect. Meena?
Again, like Nitish said, 25 years been building businesses across various sectors. It's really up to you and your imagination of what kind of disruption you can bring about. If you think you can do it, go for it.
Perfect.
I don't have the experience as you all, but I would just like to give one message. Think digital first. Use technology to solve all the problems. Most importantly, all the seemingly impossible to change scenarios or industries are actually the ones with the deepest opportunities. So don't be afraid to dive right in and find correct use cases for the technology.
Perfect. I think my learning has been that your positivity, all 4 of you, right? Irrespective of challenges, hats off to all of you. And thank you for being such a fantastic panel. One round of applause for the panel. Thank you.
Thank you.
To each of our panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give our panel a big round of applause for that very invigorating discussion on technology-driven growth. And keep that applause going as I welcome Mr. Vinod Kinney, Board TiE Mumbai, to present our panelists and moderator with a token of appreciation. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a big hand to welcome Mr. Kinney to the stage. I'd like to say thank you to, of course, our moderator for this discussion, Mr. Harshad Satam, and thank each of our panelists, Mayank Kumar, Nitish Mittersain, Meena Ganesh, and Shivani, Karia, Jhaveri. Ladies and gentlemen, you can keep that applause going for each of the panelists as they have felicitated. Thank you so much to each of you. Thank you, ma'am. And of course, we'd like to get a group photograph of our panel. Thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, one more big round of applause, please, for our panelists before they leave the stage. Thank you once again, and thank you, Mr. Kinney.